We know, but we've forgotten what black power is. I would start it off, for instance, with Stokely Carmichael in 1966, June 16. He tells a story that it was between him and William Riggs, as well as the members of SNCC. William Riggs actually suggested that I think now is the time we call for black power. And Stokely actually insists that it was not his idea. In fact, him and SNCC thought that this man was a lunatic. They did not trust what he was pushing. But he then went on to say, well, on the day that you address Stokely, I will agitate the masses, and I will give you a signal. And upon that signal, you will then say, what do the people want? And Stokely said, well, it's fine, comrades, we'll do so. The day came, Stokely addressed the masses. And as he addressed the masses, he constantly kept on giving an eye to the brother. Because the brother had said, I will signal you when to actually declare this. And the brother at some point did signal to Stokely and say, it is time. Stokely was very hesitant at first, because this is something which had not been done before. At least the last voice, who himself did not publicly declare it, was Malcolm X. But Stokely then looked intensely at brother, and the brother kept on saying, Stokely, come on, say it. And Stokely was scared, and he said, Stokely, come on, say it. And finally Stokely said, we want black power. As in a shock of moment, the people were silent a bit. And then Stokely threw it to them and said, what do you want? And they said, we want black power. And at that point, Stokely then qualified what it means to have black power. He said, we want black power because all the scared niggas are dead. Comrades, I think we must ask each other, maybe now, look at your neighbor and ask, are you? It's because we don't want scared niggas here. We want black people here. And Stokely kept on saying, we want black power. And it was very interesting because in the midst of it, Dr. King was standing there a little bit anxious because he wasn't sure of what was happening. And of course, he kept on doubting as well to associate with this movement. But the fire had grabbed hold of the people. The meaning of the black experience had grabbed hold of the people. And of course, the influence of black power had grabbed onto the psyche of the people. It happened for the first time, the time where they could clearly articulate what is it that they want. And the call for black power has nothing to do with white people, but everything to do with black folks. And black people have to understand this. Now, of course, I don't want to be a mystic of some form, but I do think it's a very significant stunt that it happened on June 16, 1966. Now, I'll leave it to the spiritualists in the room who will postulate whether the gods were speaking in 66 and they later spoke in 76 through Tsietsi Mashinini. But clearly, what black power meant was that there was a change that was coming. And this black power was not purely about how we looked, but what we were thinking. Minister Malcolm told us the difference between the field Negro and the house Negroes. And he pointed out that, well, I'm a field Negro. Stokely stepped it up a notch and said, we're not just field Negroes, we're black folks. When Stokely explained it, he said, we will define black power, and then we'll listen, the white men. No academic, no bloody liberal is going to come and tell us what black power is. We have seen it in Soweto, and that was a response. It was a response against a government that refuses to change, a government that is so entrenched in injustice. But they responded with black power. Now, comrades, between you and I, when I thought of my talk, I gave it the title, will the real black people please stand up? because I'm not really convinced that many of us understand the intentions and the extent of blackness. Some of us have argued that inasmuch as the likes of Fanon define the mental state or the phonetic behavior of the white race and the psychological response from the so-called indigenous people, blackness has nothing to do in terms of its roots with whiteness. It is us calling ourselves what we want to be and who we are. Similarly, Stolika Michael pointed out, we came in the US as black people. It took us 400 years to become Negroes. He attached blackness with a warrior spirit that has been found against, or that has been found in us when we fight against those that attempt to step out our humanity, that have to be kept in check. And interestingly so, when Black Power came and got hold of the few cadres at the universities, including Steve Bantu Biko, the fire was set ablaze, and South Africa would never be the same again. But I then want to say, comrades, what have we really come to behold on this day? Are we thinking about the trauma? No. Are we thinking about the bodies that have been riddled by bullets by an apartheid regime? No. Are we thinking about a sense of helplessness against the system? No, comrades, let's be honest. You see, the events of June 16, 1976 are not an act of randomness. Now, the theoretical physicist Albert Einstein points out that God does not play dice, and I don't think we should either. The events of June 16, 1976 come as a result of proper political action, stemming from 1972 with Onkgopozitiro, leading up to the formation of SASM when Rangwezi Nengonkulu, Strini Motley, as well as Steve Bantu Biko convinced the group to let go of the name African and use the name South African in order for it to fit in within the framework of what blackness had been understood. So we're not dealing here, comrades, with a situation which was purely random. We're dealing with a situation where a revolutionary movement gave direction into this country that culminated in what we saw in June 16. Now, comrades, we're in trouble. We are in trouble because we think it is sufficient to have the clenched fist. It is sufficient to say one Azania, one nation without a political program. The time has come, leaders, that we come out with a political program. When Siasi Mashinini and his group led the students, and of course the apartheid regime responded in the manner that it did, at some point when Siasi addressed the student, he pointed out, as a prophet pointed out, that he said, power, 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 comrades. I'm from Orlando. The government and the police have opened live ammunition on bodies. From henceforth, anything that belongs to the system, we burn it down. It was a revolutionary response. But what followed? The stairways. When Siasi was asked, why do you do this? He said, we don't have the arms. But what do we have? One thing that we show off, which we have, is the power to cripple the economy of this country. The revolution cannot exist without the people being the center of that revolution. I once drove to Shawela. I think I was driving with the national organizer. We saw a house that was burning up in flames, and I was a bit irritated because I just did not understand why people were so much in the streets at that particular moment in time. And then the tower alerted me, so no, the house is burning. And very strangely, I saw people watching the house burn. I then said, hey, comrade, perhaps this is defining of what has happened to our people. They've begun to disengage. They simply watch. That's why I'm saying, comrades, perhaps today, can the real black people please stand up? If they are here. We don't want to assume that they are here. One has to reach his own or her own internal revolutionary resolve as to whether you are black or you are not. And we have to begin to develop a political program, a deliberate political program to unseat the managers in this country. We cannot do it any other way, comrades. We cannot pray for it. We cannot hope for it. It requires action. But not just any kind of action, because a lot of action takes place. Comrade President has spoken about Dudula. It's some kind of action, but it's not revolutionary action. We want revolutionary action. We have to set up structures, build alliances, and have the ability to engage the enemy. Now, Huey P. Newton explains to us that power is the ability to define phenomena, one, and secondly, to make that phenomena work in a reasonable fashion. What is our phenomena? It is us who live in poverty. It is us who live in sheds. It is us who do not benefit from the material wealth of this country. It is, yes, it is us, comrades, that feel the sting of the ledge. Today in this country, white flippant businessmen are able to stand up, a bunch of billionaires, and tell us that they've got the power to tell their friends not to invest in this country. Now, they can go with their friends, but you will see a lot of non-whites clapping. The level of arrogance, because in their psyche, they do not have the people in mind. Now, when we used to say in the past, and we meant it, all power to the people, that is precisely what we meant. It is the people that will make sure that things change. It is the people that will make sure that the land comes back to its rightful owners. It is the people that will overthrow capitalism, which is the system of the few, and bring about a new social and economic system that will guarantee an equal opportunity and wealth for the people. Now, comrades, all I am saying, and all that I've said thus far, is that may the real black people please stand up. Black power. The clarion call is out, comrades. One Azania, one nation. From Cape to Cairo, from Madagascar, the clarion call is out. Black power. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? What